Hi, this is Steve Cochran, and welcome once again to Live from My Office. Thank you very much for listening. And by the way, here's a great gift for the holidays. Give the gift of me and Live from My Office by simply going to someone who doesn't currently listen to the podcast and just gently and sweetly saying to them, "The hell's wrong with you?" And then showing them how they could download the podcast or how they could add an app to their phone to listen. I mean, you know, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're everywhere podcasts are. Or you can just go to CochranShow.com and they're all collected right there. Right there on the Live from Your Office page. You can get every podcast we've done so far. And a bunch of podcasts yet to be done. All right, on today's exciting episode, we will, of course, give you a charitable organization that we think is worthy of your consideration. Frankly, it's another gift idea. And in addition to that, two great guests. A lot of you probably have cruise tickets, right? You like to go on a cruise? You're wondering if you're ever going to go on a cruise again? I've got the preeminent expert on big boats in the water, and that'd be Stewart Chiron. Stewart's been a pal for years. He's the cruise guy. I'll talk to him about the state of the business. And by the way, he's very honest in this interview about whether or not he would book now and into the future. So you'll hear from Stewart. But before that, Paul Coyte is back. Paul Coyte, my London friend. No, am I kidding? He's my global friend. Paul Coyte will be on, and we'll catch up on everything related to our two countries and the state of the world. So, you know, it'll be funny. That's all coming up on today's Live from My Office. Again, on Apple, on Spotify, at CochranShow.com, and wherever you get your podcast. Always remember, if you would please, to rate and review wherever you listen, or drop me a note at thecochranshow@gmail.com. We are sponsored by David Hochberg and Team Hochberg. I don't know if you know this. All he wants to do is save you some money. And we continue next with my friend Paul Coyte. This is Live from My Office. Live from My Office would not be possible without the help of great partners like Team Hochberg and specifically David Hochberg. I've known David for a long time. Some people think that I may have bailed him out of prison at some point. No, it wasn't me. But David Hochberg's had a very interesting career as well. He's done a lot of different things, been successful at all of them, but I think this is the niche. Because for many, many years now, he's been helping listeners get the most out of their homes, whether it's a financing of a new home, a refi, helping out with something like a reverse mortgage. Look, he knows the money stuff that you and I and most people glaze over about. Now, how do I know that? Well, because I use David Hochberg. I've used him before. I'd use him again. He helped me with a refi of a home equity loan. In addition to that, he's working with my daughter on a refi of her first home. And my sister's used him twice. Good enough for my family, you bet. And my friends, too, like John DeCoste. And by the way, a million other people who worked with me at WGN. Just about everybody there at one point or another consulted David Hochberg for help in regards to maximizing the value of their home and maximizing their money, because he knows this stuff. And don't lose sight of the fact that your credit could be enhanced by one of the Hochberg team members. He's got a guy who is so good, he can take you from the front of the limo to the back of the limo in short order with some tricks and tips that are perfectly legal that you would never know about and I would never know about. But again, this individual is part of Team Hochberg. It's David Hochberg, Team Hochberg, making the most of your money, making you feel better, and taking some of that pressure off. You know, the weight of it when you think, look at this monthly payment, especially now in COVID year. So take advantage of David Hochberg. Make sure you pick up the phone. Go to Team Hochberg's website. That's 56david.com. Or you can call him up, 855-56-DAVID. David Hochberg, 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. This is Live from My Office, and one of the great cheap thrills of my life, and I do mean cheap, is when I get to say, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Coyte. Hi, buddy.
Steve, how are you?
You know, I'm fine. I do have one request to make right out of the gate, and for those of you that don't know, Paul Coyte is live in London. He was always the London bureau chief on the radio show, and I've made him the ambassador to the podcast in London now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So here's my thing, and I feel a little awkward saying this, but you may remember a month or so ago when you were on Live from My Office, I said, and this is before the election, I said, look, I know the first couple of wars didn't go well for you guys, but if you ever wanted to invade and take over, now would be the time. And I was encouraging a new British invasion.
Yeah, yes, you were.
And I have to say, I got to take that back now, because you may have heard, regardless of what the big orange idiot says, Biden won. So I think we're going to be okay. You
think you're going to be all right? Well, listen, we are waiting, because I'm just trying to get the army together. And just as you say that, and I'm trying to get prepared, then you go and do a silly thing like that. So what are we going to do now?
Well, I think keep
Sweden?
them ready.
We'll invade Sweden.
Keep them ready, because based on what's going on politically in your country, you may need them at home. Who knows?
Okay, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you may be able to invade us, actually. Or is there like a joint invasion or something where we'll just swap over for a little while? I think they're called exchange students. Maybe we could do something like that for adults.
Exchange invasion. I like it. I like it. I like it.
Yeah, an exchangeon.
An exchange. Yeah, an exchange. Yeah, that's it. That's it. All right, so here's the topic list. I have several things to bring up with you. I want to bring up The Crown, which I assume you watch. I want to bring up Queen Elizabeth, and is she ever going to leave? Will Chuck ever get the hat? And I want to bring up the fact that it's V-Day. As of when we're taping this, which means you guys are getting the vaccinations for COVID first.
That's correct.
But before we get to all of that, let me get to some good news here, and that is the Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, of which you're a proud family member and a lifetime fan. This is the number one sport in the world and the number one league for the number one sport in the world, and your team, Tottenham's, in first place.
Absolutely, top of the league. It's unbelievable. I've had countless arguments with staff on my radio show who would say, it's great because Tottenham are joint top of the Premier League because we're on the same points as Liverpool, who won it last year. And there's a thing called goal difference.
Yeah,
so if you've got a high goal difference, that means you are above them. And I'm saying, Spurs are not joint top of the Premier League. We're top of the Premier League. No, but you're joint top. And anyway, you'd think this was a pathetic, stupid little argument, but Spurs have not won this league for 60 years. That's how long it's been. So 60 years was the last time they won it. And the last time they were top at this point in the season was 1985. So obviously, I'm going to make the most of the fact that we're top. Anyway,
you're not giving any room. You're not giving any room on this argument.
I ain't giving nothing because you know what? I've waited long enough for it, and I deserve it. So I put a little thing on Twitter saying, look, just to let you know, we are top, we're not joint top. Oh, my goodness me. The fans from other clubs, the hatred. I've never seen anything like it. Just a silly little innocuous tweet. And I'm saying it's fact. I'm not saying they go, you're going to do this, you're rubbish, you're going to be coming down with the Christmas decorations. And it's like, but at the moment, we're top. And that's the fact. And that's all there is. So anyway,
you know what? I'm with you. I am absolutely with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that because I knew I'd get some sense from you.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Speaking of the Liverpool club, because I don't want to make this too deep about football, but here's what I know, and I think you'll be proud because you taught me everything I know when it comes to the story. Liverpool and Leicester City. You've got two of your next three Premier League games against those two teams. You could put some distance between the three of you by winning both of those games. And I like where you're positioned. So good for Tottenham.
That sounds great. See, that's the difference between an American and an Englishman. See, you are a positive man, and that we look to you for. So you will say, you will look at that and go, look, you will then beat your rivals and then move further away. I'll look at them and go, they're our rivals. They'll probably beat us, and then they'll move past us. That's the difference between you and I. See, I need a little more of you in me, if you'll pardon the expression.
Yeah, well, that's awkward, isn't it? Now, before we leave this topic, though, what in fact is a Hotspur?
A Hotspur, it's named Hotspur after Shakespeare, after the Shakespeare play, and Harry Hotspur, who featured in that, and it was founded by a bunch of, Shakespeare fans, I suppose. It was in the area of Tottenham of London, and they thought they'd name themselves Tottenham Hotspur after Harry Hotspur. So that's what the Hotspur comes from. So it's actually Shakespearean. which is, I think you'll find is pretty classy, don't you?
Oh, very classy. But why wouldn't there be then the Manchester Macbeths? Something along those lines. Well, that's it.
Because they're not as clever as we are.
Yeah, of course, because they're from the rest of the country.
And look at Liverpool. Do you know what their little name is at the end? Liverpool. They don't have one. They're just called Liverpool.
They couldn't even think of one.
How clever is that? They go, well, what do we call ourselves? Liverpool. Let's just stick with Liverpool, and that's it. And you got Liverpool, and then the other one next to Liverpool, because they talk like that. And they go, right across is Everton. And they don't have a name either. So you've got the Blues and the Reds and Everton and Liverpool, and that's it. That's it. Did you know, I'll throw this by you, did you know that Liverpudlians, and you probably know this from the Beatles and the way that, of course, John Lennon was 40 years ago, and Paul McCartney, there's a slightly nasal thing about the way the people in Liverpool would talk.
Oh,
and the reason is because of the cotton mills in the 1800s would make them very nasal, and then the accent grew out of that. So still they talk like this, and it's very they're very nasal. Sure. And the reason for that is because it goes back over 100 years.
Well, that's fascinating.
Thank you.
As far as you know. Now, but why wouldn't they go with something obvious? Because you mentioned it. Why wouldn't it be the team name? They could go with Liverpool, home of the Beatles. Why couldn't they do that?
Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it?
I mean, it'd be a big jersey. I think Liverpool, home of the Beatles. I'd like to see the whole thing on the jersey.
Yeah, I like that. Liverpool, brackets, open brackets, home of the Beatles, close brackets.
Liverpool, subtitle, home of the Beatles. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so they do the football scores. They go Tottenham Hotspur 1, Liverpool, home of the Beatles 0. And that would work for me. That would work for me. And also, it would help people that are just getting into football.
That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. All right, so it's V-Day as of when we're recording this, which means you guys get the first vaccinations in the world for COVID-19. What makes you so special? How come you got to go first?
Well, I tell you what it is. It's our sense of humor has made us special. And this is what I loved. And this is what I was hoping was going to happen. It was a woman called Margaret, who was 95 years old, was the first one. And I was really hoping she was going to do this because I think it would be great. The world's cameras are facing her as she's sitting there, and then she gets her injection there. She gets her vaccination. And I think it would have been great if she just slumped in her chair, closed her eyes, and slumped forward, and then went, "Oh, I'm just kidding." I think that would have been a great thing, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that have been great for everybody?
That would have been a great bit. That would have been a great bit. Yeah.
But and then the second man. I mean, get this: the second man. His name is William Shakespeare.
I saw that.
The second guy's name was William Shakespeare. Did you see that?
I saw that, and that's factual.
Yeah. And he's also from the area that William Shakespeare was from. So I don't know. I don't know whether this is done by they've chosen him. The English Tourist Authority have actually chosen him to have that. I have no idea. But yeah, so I think they've done a few now, and we're the first. And I know there's people over there thinking we're the first because we just said, we'll just give it a go. So I think that's what it is. We're quite happy to just give it a try, see what happens, and hope for the best because that's the sort of people we are.
Now, is there anybody in the UK who is saying, I won't have the vaccine? Because we got a bunch of those geniuses here. Oh,
goodness me. Aware that, someone puts out some nonsense about, what was the good one that I heard? That there's something in the vaccine that can check everything that you're doing. And some people are going, well, I'm not having it then. I'm not having it then. And I've got a friend of a friend who's been unwell and it's been advised by a doctor, you need to get to hospital and have some tests. Oh, well, I'm not going to hospital because I might catch COVID. I mean, you're like, what, are you kidding me? And so, I'm not going to go there. Well, you're going to get I'm not going to have that. It's not been tested. How do you know? How many of these geniuses that are saying I'm not having it have learned anything about how a vaccine is tested?
No,
do they have a clue? None of them. No. But they go, well, it's a little bit soon. I'm not very happy about that. Oh, what, you want a little more red tape then? Is that going to make you feel better? So there are people around, and it drives me crazy.
Well, we've got the great Dr. Fauci here, who I'm sure you've seen. Dr. Fauci is this tiny little elfin man who has been in charge of the infectious diseases in this country, basically, for the last 6 presidents. and he's being treated like he's a moron on the tube or on the bus. It's like, I'm not going to listen to that guy. Really? Really?
No, it's because we know better than he. We know better. Oh, I know how I feel, and we know better. It's like, what are you ridiculous? When did you suddenly get a doctorate? You don't even know whether you got a cold or you got the flu or what it do with you. You don't even know whether they put a plaster on your finger or not. But you're still walking around just going, well, I don't think I'll be having it because I think you'll find it'll be funny. So what do you know? But, I don't want it, don't have it.
I don't know if it's social media. I don't know why we suddenly don't believe experts. I told somebody the other day, we're all going to be flying again at some point. I said, but when I get on the airplane, I don't knock on the cockpit door and go, hey, fellas, I'll take it from here. Because I don't fly the plane.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous. All right, so a couple other things.
Do you think the pilot, you're going to sit in the back of the plane and go, yeah, well, I've got to take a chance, but there's a good chance that this pilot's going to fly me somewhere completely different. But
right.
You know what I'll do?
Right.
I'll give it a go. I'll hope for the best. Right. There is a chance, and then someone else is going to go, yeah, he's not going to fly you where you want to go. He'll do whatever he wants to do. It's like, for goodness sake.
I don't understand I don't understand why people fight about this, because I'm relieved when I'm dealing with an expert. When I go to a doctor, I'm glad they know what's going on, because the reason
me too.
The reason I'm there is because I don't know what's going on. I didn't make the doctor's appointment for a social call. I made the doctor's appointment because that guy is the doctor, so he can tell me what's going on. I don't get it. There's way too much stupidity out there now. All right, moving on.
Let me tell you. I'll just say that as far as the vaccine is concerned over here, it's the thing that takes the time is the red tape. This has to go through this council. This has to go through this council, and you usually have to wait so long for it to be approved. It goes through that. They've cut all the red tape. Everything has been checked and double checked. This is 95%. This is 95%, this vaccine. Whereas most vaccines are going to be like 50, 60%.
Yep.
This is an unbelievable vaccine. But people are still going to go, oh, I don't know.
It's nothing.
Please,
it's
just
nothing.
Get your head out your ass and just get the vaccine, for crying out loud. Do you want to get coronavirus? Oh, no, nobody's going to tell me what to do. Well, don't get it then. If you don't want to get it, don't get it. But don't come near us.
And by the way, I'm no expert either, but I will say this. If you do get your head out of your ass, it'll sound like this. Just so you know.
Yeah.
All right, so let me move on to something that is a question I've had for a very long time. And I brought this up initially to you, my British friend.
Yeah.
Will Chuck ever get the hat?
Well, I wonder. You first asked me this probably 25 years ago and said to me on a radio show, will Chuck get the hat? And I said, Steve, I have no idea what you're talking about. So you said, will Prince Charles become the king of your country? And I said, okay, will Chuck get the hat? I'm sure it'll happen. I'm sure it'll happen in the not too distant future. So here we are 25 years on. Prince Charles is in his 70s. The Queen is going very strong in her 90s now, and she's absolutely fine. Is Chuck going to get the hat? Yeah, he'll probably get the hat, but I don't think he'll wear the hat for quite as long as he thought he was going to wear the hat.
At this point, if he gets the hat, could be 2 weeks. Who knows?
Could be a 2-week hat. Yeah. But make the most of your hat while you got it.
All right. So as I understand things, the line of succession is Prince Charles.
Yes. Correct.
Followed by Prince William.
Yes.
Followed by you. You're after that. You're fourth in line.
That's correct.
That's all right. Just wanted to double check. All right. So I've been watching The Crown, which, I believe is a British documentary.
Yeah. You know what? So do we. That's the thing.
Yeah. Because I had heard, and I believe this is a legitimate story, that they are pushing for a law in the UK to put a label on the show for educational purposes to say it's just a show. Is that true?
That's true. I don't know whether it's going to be a law, but they are saying, look, Netflix should put something on there just to say this is a work of fiction. It's fiction based on fact. Whereas I got to tell you, I don't want it to be, because by the time I'd seen episode 2, I was ready to storm Buckingham Palace, obviously in a socially distanced fashion, and to have them overthrown. I mean, I've been a lover of the royal family all my life, and by episode 2, I'm thinking, how can they have done? How can they be so cold?
Right.
Honestly, what kind of behavior is this? And it is remarkable. And I got to say, I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And how true it is. You know, there are people that are going to go, actually, there's a lot of truth in that, but you just don't know the whole story. So there's truth in it. There's certainly truth in it. But obviously the conversations are going to be fictionalized. But I find myself believing the whole thing. I really do. Because every story in there, they're all real people. And there's a lot of historical fact in there. It's just that it's just played around just a little bit.
I just would like them all to be happier because it is the royal family. We love the royal family in this country, as you know.
Sure.
Much better.
Just as much, or are you going off them now a bit?
Oh no, I think in this country we love it more than you do,
right?
And partly because our lead family is just wingnuts and dipshits. But the whole thing, they just seem like terribly, terribly sad people. It's like, lighten up. Everybody have fun. You're the royal family. You make a phone call, you can have anything you want.
I'm still trying to work out the Ibble Dibble game that they played with. It was was getting Ibble Dibble Dibble Do.
Right. What was that?
I'm an Ibble Dibble, and you Ibble Dibble me and Dibble one. And I don't know what the fuck. What was this Ibble Dibble? And I'm still trying to work out. And they go, and it's the big test because if anybody goes to Sandringham and meets the royal family, they have to play in the test the Dibble Dibble. I'll be like, Ibble Dibble? Fucking Ibble Dibble yourself. I don't want to play your Ibble Dibble. I would not. But I don't know whether they would like me for that. But I'd tell them Dibble themselves. I'm not interested in Ibble Dibble.
Yeah.
That's a stupid game. What the hell is that about? Ibble Dibble?
Well, it is a huge, huge hit here. But one thing that jumps out of the show for me is the portrayal of Prince Charles is of a entitled, spoiled, sorrowful, wimpy, pessimistic, whiny. I don't want to use too technical a term here, but a whiny little bitch.
That's the good stuff. Yeah.
So is that possibly who he is?
I don't know. You know, there's bits in it, and of course there was the Camilla thing that went on. Although there's denying now, they're saying that he didn't speak to her during the early years with Diana. It never went on, but. The whole Diana thing, it makes sense. I mean, it was a mess. Of course, the whole marriage was a mess. But the whole portrayal of Prince Charles, I don't know. And the thing is, nobody here really knows. We watched that, and we're like you, because we don't really know them. We know them as figureheads, but as personalities, we don't know. I'm just hoping that moment from 30 years ago where I stood on stage and the Queen looked me in the eye is going to be in the 5th series.
Yeah, I think it will.
I'm just wondering who's going to play me in the 90s wearing a pair of far too short shorts holding a microphone at a radio roadshow. But, we'll have to see. But I just don't know when it comes to Charles. I really don't. Could anybody truly be that awful?
No, I don't think so. No, I really don't think so, which is why I bring it up. But it does raise the question, is the Queen staying as long as she's staying because her own father and family went through the Prince Edward abdication and she has the trauma from all of that? Or is she staying because she just doesn't believe her son's up to the job?
And also because Charles has never won a game of Ibble Dibble.
Right.
That's probably the reason. Ibble Dibble me, Steve. Steve Ibble Dibble Dibble Do Dibble Street Dibble Dibble.
All right,
ridiculous.
All right, so I have a couple of other things to bring up to you, but we're going to run out of time here quickly. Is there anything I can answer for you?
Is there anything you can answer for me? I mean, when you look at, when you're looking over at us now? Do you look over and think, well done for you, you've got your vaccine, you've done well, we'll have some of that? Or do you think, look at them, who do they think they are? They're jumping the gun, that's them being really happy with themselves. What's the view over there then?
I can't speak for the country anymore because, I'm live from my office. But, what
does the office say?
I do believe that you are leading the way, as the good people of the United Kingdom have for centuries. You're leading the way and showing us the way. And I only hope that the people of the United States of America get their head out of their ass, collective asses, and get in line for the vaccine when it's available. And I pray that President Biden will be able to, along with Vice President Harris, will be able to somehow save the democracy. And I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic. I think we're going to be okay.
We are too. You know, don't forget when I was over there and the amount of people that said, apologized to me saying, we didn't vote for him. Talking about Trump, we didn't vote for him.
Absolute true story. We're in New York City, and people are stopping Paul on the street to say, I didn't vote for him.
It's absolutely true. Heard an English accent, said, look, can I just say that please don't tar us all with the same brush. I didn't vote for that man. And it was absolutely unbelievable. So the other thing I do want to know, what happens to him? Where does he go? What is going to happen to Trump?
Well, my theory initially was that...
He's not coming here, is he?
No. My theory initially was that he would fly to Moscow and stay there. And he would go somewhere out of the country and stay there because he will be criminally prosecuted here. And that's never happened to an American president after office.
Sure.
But he is such a child, and he is such a horrible human being that anything's possible between now and then. Keep in mind, he has the powers of the presidency of the United States. There's no more powerful job on the planet than that. And he has the powers of the presidency, and he's not done anything to save lives or to stop the spread of COVID in this country. We've got 285,000 people dead. He's done nothing except bitch about how the election was stolen from him. It's an absolute lie. It's never been anything but a lie, and that's his main focus. And yet, here's the scary part. We had about 160 million people that voted. More than 70 million people voted for Donald Trump.
This is what amazes us. We're looking at this and thinking, how? We just don't understand it. We're trying to understand.
I don't think you should. I think it'll hurt you. I think if you try to understand, it'll give you a terrible headache. I think you should just have some tea and enjoy the fact that everybody's getting the vaccine and know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are going to do their best to fix this. And in the meantime, you and I will continue to answer all of the world's problems next time on Live from My Office. I mean, I think that's our plan.
I think that's the idea. I mean, it makes the only things that truly do not make any sense was the whole Trump thing and the game of ibble dibble. They're just the two things in life that I just do not understand and probably never will.
I understand. I understand that you don't understand. Go Spurs. It's my friend Paul Coyte, the ambassador to the podcast, live from London on Live from My Office. Best of the family. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Talking about reverse mortgages with David Hochberg. Why does this get a bad rap? I mean, can you really trust these loans?
Here's the deal. My mom was in a wheelchair. She had MS. We converted the living room into her bedroom, built a ramp so her mobile wheelchair there could go up and down the stairs.
Sure.
It got to a point where the only asset that my parents had was the house they were living in. So I kept telling them, we need a reverse mortgage. We need a reverse mortgage. They're like, no, I hear bad things about it. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm in the industry. These are great loans. Paid for the appraisal, paid for the counseling, which we now have a company that we work with that gets grant from HUD, so you don't have to pay for it. Long story short, I was going to put my parents into a reverse mortgage, Steve, if their house appraised for what my dad thought the house was worth. I did everything that I could possibly do to get my parents set up to take out this product. Do you really think I'm going to put my parents into a product that's dangerous, a loan product?
Exactly.
Hell no.
But here's the thing, because you hit on it, and I don't want people to lose this. There's all this information out there, and then there's the myths that are out there. And the myths that are out there is, that's how they get you. That's what my dad would always say about stuff. That's how they get you. That's how they get you. That's how they get your house. They're not taking your house.
It gives you the option. You get a mortgage statement, like any other mortgage statement, and you have the option to make the payment or defer the payment. You're a grown person. You've made financial decisions all your life. You could either take that money that you would have set aside for the mortgage payment to make your mortgage payment and work your principal down, or you could take that money and go on the bus. Well, you can't go on the bus anymore because nobody's going on the bus, but I used to use this example. Get on the bus and go downtown with your friends from the community center. Go see a play.
Right.
Maybe buy a plane ticket and go see your family. Just what do you worry about paying a house off that's already paid off or almost paid off when you can eliminate that payment, and live out the rest of your life.
By the way, we'll remind you, whenever we talk to Mr. Hochberg, it's easy to get a hold of him. All you got to do is pick up the phone and call 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. It is a pleasure, before this year is complete, to welcome back to Live from my office, my old pal Stewart Chiron. There's nobody that knows more about the cruise business. He's smart about a lot of stuff. But this cruise thing he gets, because it's been Stewart's life for a lot of years. Stewart, how are you?
Hey, Steve. Doing great. Happy and healthy, thankfully, and ready to go on a cruise. But, 31 years. This is just unthinkable.
Start with the website. If people want to go to your website, what are they going to see there now? Do you update information there on what's happening?
Yeah, well, I mean, about, with whatever is available to book at this point. But, I would tell you that if you're planning a sail between now and April, May, forget it. The available information of what is possible is there at cruiseguy.com.
All right, so let's start with the obvious. You mentioned between now and April, May, it's not going to happen. Obviously, it takes a lot of work. There's a million details to get the ships back in the water and going from point to point. Do you have any sense of who's going to be first, or are they all going to end up back in business about the same time?
No, it's going to be a spread out effort. I mean, you've got my predictions, based on all of my discussions. I think Carnival, Royal, and Celebrity Cruises, possibly NCL, may be the first 4 cruise lines to resume operations. Keep in mind that all of the sailings right now that deal with U.S. ports are going between now and almost November are going to be limited to 7 nights. So if you're planning to do a 10-night Caribbean cruise between now and November, it's not going to happen. So the focus is only on 7 nights. At first, it'll only be sailings more than likely of 3 to 5 nights as they test the new or the enhanced protocols and requirements, so they can get people on and off. They'll have reduced occupancies on the ship. But it's going to take just dealing with the requirements of the CDC to certify all the ships, to get the crews back. They're going to have to be quarantined for in 2 stages, totaling 28 days before they can get back on the ship. So there's a lot of work, and a lot of these ships are, some of the ships have been sailing off the coast of Florida and anchored in the Bahamas, returning for fuel and supplies, and then having to go back out. But then you also have other ships that have, they all have minimal crews at this point, just to maintain the ships and keep them operational. But it's going to take some time to retrain these crews, refit the ships. I know they're working hard with the air filters and everything that they can do in advance. But the point is, it's going to take some time. That's why, based on everything I know at this point, April might be the earliest that they would be able to sail. And we're only talking about maybe a couple of ships from each of those cruise lines at the very beginning. And then as everything works out, Steve, then they could start to introduce more ships. In addition, that the ports, they may only be going to their private islands for a period of time, maybe adding in a Nassau. But it's going to be a while before we start to see normal cruises with 7-night itineraries with their normal itineraries.
So in the case of this entire industry, once it's back online, obviously there's been an awful lot of people who haven't worked this year, and those folks may have had to gone on and left their career, done different things. Are we going to see some sort of cruise hiring boom once this kicks in?
It will, but more than likely, depending on the type of industry. They've got, their companies that they hire, crews, all over the world, that are constantly, dealing with employees. Yeah, there's going to be some that aren't going to return. There's a lot that want to return. So there's just going to be an enormous amount of training. Then you've got, here in the U.S., mean, cruising is a $60 billion industry that, essentially involves almost 500,000 people. From the cruise line employees, from the people that service the ships, or the people that work at the ports, the travel agents. There's like I said, there's almost 500,000 people that have been directly impacted by the lack of cruising, and it would be amazing to see how quickly, when cruising is able to restart. That we'll see more people flying, we'll see more people driving, staying in hotels, more people staying in restaurants at a lot of these port cities like Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Orlando and Canaveral. Then moving over possibly to Tampa, and then Galveston, Texas, for Houston. But it's going to take some time.
So as this goes on and goes forward, what about people who have had bookings? What's the state of the refund business?
Well, there's at this point, the cruise lines continued. They just, some of the cruise lines have canceled into, their March sailings. So past people would, have been offered, they can get a refund of the money paid, or they can get a future cruise credit, which essentially industry wide, it's been about 125% of whatever it was that you paid for your cruise. So at this point, it's still a 50-50 split of people taking the future cruise credit and taking the refund.
And if anybody hasn't done that, do they have to make moves by the end of the year, or does the 12-month calendar not apply here?
No, the 12-month, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So some people have taken those cruise credits and have applied them toward sailings in 2021 or into 2022, while others have are just holding on to it to kind of see. Right now, Steve, there's a lot of what ifs and possible maybes. There's people that, I was supposed to go to Alaska in 2020. I'm thinking of 2021. Well, at this point, it's very unlikely that, and it's very unfortunate to say it, but Alaska 2021 may not happen. There's just too many, there's too many situations that are unresolved at this point for them to be able to run a full season, if even a half a season of ships up in Alaska, which means, there's people that wanted to go that are going to have to cancel that again. The cruise lines have been very flexible with their rebooking process because this is just, no one's ever expected anything like this to ever happen.
Sure.
So their previous cancellation policies are out the window, and so they have very flexible policies in place right now to make it easier for people to, one, feel more comfortable, and two, to make adjustments to the plans, because this is still a very fluid situation. Back in March, we thought the industry would be shut down, which was just a shock for a couple of months. But hopefully by the start of the summer, we'd get back to, cruising and, life as we knew it. Well, summer's gone, fall's gone, here we are into the winter, and, we're still not seeing anything definitive at this point. So they have to be very, very flexible with people, with their deposits and with their final payments and the future cruise credits.
Now, you've taught us through the years about booking your flights separately from the cruises. We don't know what state the airlines are in going forward. Is it a chicken or egg thing? The cruises have to wait to figure out what the airlines are going to do health-wise, or vice versa, or are they both operating separately?
They're both operating separately. At some point, airlines may start to require COVID tests in order to get on the plane. At this point, we don't know. But I could tell you, as far as on the cruise side, that the cruise passengers will be required to take COVID tests before they get on before they head to the ship. They're going to have to. So when they arrive at the ship, they will have to present documentation that they've been tested within, let's say, 3 days of the sailing and tested negative. Then they're going to get tested again at the pier. If everything according to what the CDC said, you're going to in all the different countries that you may visit on a 7-night cruise, and then you have to get tested before you get off the ship you could wind up taking a total of 6 tests. I think we're going to see a lot of that reduced, consolidated, so people won't have to take as many tests. But the testing, which right now, according to what the CDC wants, is PCR testing, which are those invasive, nasal cavity.
Q-tip in your brain. I've had
tests.
a couple.
Yeah. But there's, I could tell you this, that even though the CDC's no sale order expired on October 31st, the cruise lines were still in no, way ready to move forward, because essentially the technology that they need to be able to operate with, it hasn't been revealed yet. So there's all kinds of contraptions and technologies and machines that are being reconfigured so that they can process, cruise passengers. But reality is that just on the PCR test, if they would need, for a large ship, Steve, they would need 300, machines costing $50,000 a pop. That's $15 million at one pier,
right,
to deal with a ship for just that was operating at half capacity. It's not happening.
Now you sent me something the other day that I thought was really interesting, and the airlines are trying to figure this out. Everybody's trying to figure it out. How do we process people as quickly as possible? And I think of cruise lines, airlines, and concerts in particular, where you need to get people processed safely and into the venue or on the plane or on the ship, and knowing that they're not going to be spreading COVID. So explain the thing you sent to me the other day, and is it something that we could see?
Well, there's a lot of technology that is possible. What I sent you was essentially it's equivalent to a breathalyzer test, which apparently they're close to getting FDA approval, and it alleges to be able to detect asymptomatic people, which is enormously important, because a lot of the people that got on cruise ships before were asymptomatic when they got on board, and then when they got off, they discovered, or they were starting to show the symptoms. So if there was a way that we could, that everybody could find that if somebody is asymptomatic and be able to detect it before they're allowed onto a plane, onto a cruise ship, into a concert, that would be a game changer. And also, if these tests could be used instead of, if they're just as effective as a PCR or some of these antigen tests, antigen is a lot less reliable. But if there was a much faster way and much more cost-effective way to be able to test people, it would certainly allow us to operate, and live more normally, and it would also help identify those people that could be dangerous or that are contagious from being able to get on a plane or ship or into a concert. So there's all kinds of new things that are in development that are being tested at this point. And the next 60 days, we could see a whirlwind of new testing equipment that could do a whole lot to make us safer.
Yeah, and the thing is, you and I were talking about this off the air, and I've said it to Peter Greenberg about flying, and I've talked to hoteliers as well. There's no upside to anybody going half-assed at this, and certainly the cruise line is not half-assing this at all. But there is the delay of knowing you're ready and dealing with government and international regulations, and everybody's got to be on the same page, which slows things down. So there's got to be a tremendous amount of frustration, because I know the demand's out there, right?
There's a tremendous amount of pent-up demand, tremendous. And Steve, I've done 276 cruises. I know how safe these ships are, and if there was a test sailing this weekend, I'd be on it, because I have that much confidence in the industry and these companies. But they're just not ready. So even though they're allowed to, if they went and adhered to the onerous provisions that the CDC put out there, they're just not ready. It's just not the right situation for them to resume operations under these conditions. They've got to. I mean, when you're dealing with the air filters and you have these feel good COVID tests and temperature checks and social distancing, even the vaccine are just part of the formula, but they're not the answer. And it's just going to be a combination of a lot of these protocols, the procedures, the technologies that some are available today, some aren't, and it's just a combination of those. So this way we can get COVID under control, but be able in a position to detect it. I mean, if you can prevent 5 people that have it from getting on a ship, I mean that's outstanding. But we also have to have realistic expectations. I mean, it is going to happen. But how can the cruise lines are working to minimize the inconveniences and the disruptions by isolating, quarantining the ill passengers, people they may have come in direct contact with, and get them off the ship.
Well, and if you've never taken a cruise, I've taken several because of Stewart's friendship and business we've done together and things. And I got to tell you something. It's a 5-star hotel on the water, and the cruise business they've thought of everything. So once cruises are able to float again, go again, I wouldn't be afraid to get in line either, but we just don't know when that's going to be. And I'm glad to hear you say what I knew you'd say anyway, and that is we got to get it right. You got to get it right. There's no upside to not getting it right. So you got to get it right, and then the lines will be long, but people will be there. So let's talk about what people should be doing now. You're saying don't book now, right?
Well, I'm not saying that. I mean, it's okay to go ahead and make reservations for sometime in the future. I'm saying I don't think Alaska is going to happen. The cruises of 7 nights, 8 nights or more are not going to happen. Right now, they're not accepting reservations until November of 21. Right now, with sailings dealing with the U.S. ports. Europe is a whole other ball game. Is Europe possible for 2021? It is possible, but I think if you are booking a 10-night cruise or longer, I think it's possible that those sailings may be reduced to 7 nights.
So where will people be able to go if the business is up by mid-year? Where will people actually be able to go?
Well, there's the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
Is one. Hopefully, the Mexican Riviera will be open. Hopefully, Hawaii will be open. The sailings between San Francisco or Los Angeles and Hawaii will not be occurring more than likely until the end of the year at the earliest. And then you have the Mediterranean and Northern Europe. But I think that those sailings of longer than 7 nights may be reduced to 7 nights. So then you're dealing with airline changes and hotel changes. The hotel's not a big deal, but it's the airline stuff. So that's why I just think it's important to just kind of take a look and see what's happening. 2022, it's probably okay to go ahead and look at what's available and go ahead and book those sailings as they have them scheduled out. But 2021, it's going to be taking time to get the ships, the sailings, back to their regular itineraries and schedules.
So what about travel insurance, cruise travel insurance? What's the state of that business?
Well, it's very interesting because before, obviously, it didn't, you weren't covered for a pandemic.
Yep.
So
yeah, because we didn't plan on that, did we?
Right. I mean, so there's so many, what ifs, and I understand. I know that in Europe, the cruise lines are actually taking out certain kinds of insurance. Because Steve, think of this. You ready? Let's say you are tested. You're in the Caribbean. You're tested positive for COVID. They have to fly you back to the U.S. and then to your home. It has to be done on private transportation, which means private jets. That isn't cheap. That's where that insurance is coming into consideration. They're having to do that in Europe. So, those types of coverages are must-haves for cruises for the near future. And the cruise lines are taking out certain coverages with private air charters at this point, because they a lot of the people that, especially some of the crew that, let's say, here lived in the United States in April when they had to get off the ships, and if they had it, they had to get flown home on a private charter. So it's a very costly thing. But just overall, a lot of the travel companies have not provided what they're going to be doing as far as how they're going to cover people with COVID.
All right, so
and if you're having to cancel because of COVID.
Even with all the unknowns, people who love to cruise are thinking now, okay, I don't want to be in the long line and the ships will fill up and all that. What would you say to anybody listening now who says, I want to cruise sometime in 2021? When do I book it? And what's realistic? Am I looking at next December, a year from now?
Well, no, I think that, again, sailing 7 nights or less. Realize a lot of the sailings that if they start in April, May will only be anywhere from 3 to 5 nights. So the longer sailings, to the Southern Caribbean are just not going to happen. But if you're wanting to kind of get an idea, well, what should I be looking at? I'd say, later in the summer, I think the Caribbean, but it's important to, do some research as far as when the cruise lines are actually going to restart. They have not made those announcements, but looking out into the fall of 2021, looking to maybe go to Europe. I mean, right now, for example, Italy's closed. They don't want anybody there. They're under lockdown there. So what could happen in the next 30, 60, 90 days? There's just so many intangibles, Steve. But I would look at the probably the second half of 2021. But I would not be focusing on any sailings longer than 7 nights.
The best place to go is always your website, which is what?
cruiseguide.com.
And how nuts have you made your family with being home so much this year?
I guess pretty nuts, but it's funny. I joke about when I hear about people leaving companies, I said, please, whatever you say, I don't want to hear that you need to spend more time with your family. And that's your reason for leaving your job.
Yeah, that doesn't work anymore.
No, it's not a good excuse anymore. But it's been a good thing. I mean, we've gone on some trips around. I've been to Disney and Universal before. School started back in August, which was a very interesting experience. Very good though. But just kind of, it's just, the travel bug. I mean, I haven't been on a ship or a plane since February, and it's just crazy considering, the last 31 years, I was either on one or both, but, I'm just very excited and looking forward to, moving forward and getting back to, traveling again. And, it's just like, it's just unfathomable what we're all experiencing. But I know that this industry could do a great deal to, improve the economy, but it's got to be done in a safe manner. And I can tell you that, that's the goal of the industry. They're not going to do anything that is prohibitive or dangerous. And they want to do everything possible based on the science and the technology to ensure that the passengers, the crew, and the destinations they visit are safe.
Let's go off with something that's, upbeat. You and I know some rich folks. And remember that old show, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous? Who was the host of that thing?
Yes.
He died a year or so ago. I can't think of his name. But anyway, the point being, there are some fabulous...
Robin Leach.
Robin Leach, well played.
I'm Robin Leach, and I don't know why.
That's the guy. So tell me, because you told me this off the air, and I was amazed at the amount of money you could spend. Tell me the top end. If I want to get away somewhere, what kind of money could I drop if I had it?
Well, believe it or not, in the family suite on some of the new Royal Caribbean ships, for a family of 4, family of 5, you could spend $60,000, $70,000. You could spend, go on a world cruise and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can get, top suites on some of the ships, like on Seabourn, for example, and you could spend $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 just for two people.
All right, so if I'm dropping $70,000 for two people, what am I getting? What are the perks? Snacks? Do I get snacks?
You'll get snacks. You'll get, but on those cruise lines, you get your drinks are included, anyways, for everybody. You'll probably have a butler, and
how about a captain's hat? Do I get a captain's hat, and can I honk the horn? Can I do that? Can I get up front?
You could. For you, you wouldn't have to spend that kind of money.
I remember one of the moments where Stewart Chiron said, "Why am I friends with this guy?" You took me to see the captain on, and I don't remember the ship. It's probably a good thing that I don't. And I believe I called the ship a boat to the captain, and you just had you had that look on your face like, "I'm going to throw you overboard right now, you idiot." But you're a great host, and you're a good friend, and you always have been, and I appreciate it. So I hope people go to the cruiseguide.com website to keep up to date with this. I know you miss going out there on the open seas, on a boat, and this too shall pass, and you'll be able to do it again. But, Stewart, thanks for the update on all of it.
Hey, my pleasure, Steve.
It's Stewart Chiron on Live from my office. On every episode of Live from my office, I like to give you a charitable organization that we think is worthy of your consideration, and I invite you, as I do each time, to send me an email at thecochrenshow@gmail.com and say, "Hey, Steve, what about this charity? Have you thought about giving them a free plug?" Happy to take a look and in all likelihood do it. Now, if you have somebody in your life, in your house, who is very green, I'm not talking about green with envy. I'm talking about green as in very environmentally conscious. But the question is, what do you get them? Well, I've got a good idea, I think. Why don't you make a donation on their behalf to the Rainforest Trust? That's the charity I'm plugging today. The Rainforest Trust has the 4-star rating from charitynavigator.com. That's as high as it gets. That means they spend the least amount of money possible to do the most good. So if that individual in your life who is very environmentally conscious, is very concerned about the blue-throated macaw or the cotton-top tamarin, well, this is the spot for you. Rainforesttrust.org. Again, that's rainforesttrust.org. What happens with your money? Well, it gets 4 times your donation's impact now, thanks to private sponsorships. So you donate $50, it's $200. $100 is $400, and so on. Very easy to donate at rainforesttrust.org, and the quadruple matches really make a big difference, as you could certainly understand. But the conservation action they do there is incomparable. You could save a highland wildlife paradise in Nepal. You could save endangered sea life from overfishing in the Congo. And yes, I'm looking at these directly from rainforesttrust.org. 296 endangered and vulnerable mammal species protected. 18 billion trees protected. And that's just the beginning. So please help if you can. Rainforesttrust.org. And, just get yourself that as a gift for somebody you love who understands the climate's in danger, and you want to help, and you want to help them help. That'd be my suggestion. All right, time for us to go. And when I say us, I mean me. You can do whatever you want. You're a grown-up. But thank you, as always, for listening to Live from my office. And thank you, Ross Cochran. Ross is the producer and the brains behind the operation, as I often say. John DeCoste will sing us out in a moment. We'll see you next time. Remember, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays are always new episodes of Live from my office.
30 years plus on the airwaves. You have turned your dial to me. Now you're tuned into my podcast. It's Live from my office, Steve. From Ithaca, New York to Carolina South, W. Cochran Steve. From Minneapolis and then Chicago twice, top-rated shows achieved. Sit back, relax, and now listen to my show when or wherever you are, 'cause you're on the go. A-list celebs with some laughs and great info. Live from my office, the Steve Cochran Podcast Show. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No better place to be. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Subscribe and like for free. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Live from my office, Steve. So glad you're with me. It's live from my office, Steve.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Support the show by subscribing wherever you're listening and by telling your friends about it. Follow Steve on all social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And make sure you check out this episode's show notes for relevant information discussed during the conversations. You can also email the show directly at thecochranshow@gmail.com with any questions or comments. And that's the best place to tell us about your favorite nonprofit so we can make sure we mention them on the next episode. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event. And occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.